there's paper birch and gray birch, and there's sweet birch and there's yellow birch, and they all have slightly different characteristics. As it turns out, paper birches has the highest content of sugar in it. We probably have about 75 or 80% of our trees are paper birches, and we also tap black birches and yellow birches.
This year for me, it's been amazing just coming out, helping them split wood, move around the evaporator. I think everyone underestimates a lot of the effort that goes in before the whole process, so that's kind of what I've been able to help them with leading up to today as our first day of tapping.
No one knows what it tastes like, and now all of a sudden people are waking up to realize there's another taste that comes out of the woods, which is so fabulous from our state tree.
I tap a lot of trees here at Tuckaway Farm in Lee, and I've also got a lot of trees elsewhere around within 10 or 15 minute drive. The interesting thing about it is that the season is a little bit later. It usually starts at about the time that maple sugaring winds down. So if you are a really ambitious maple producer, it would be possible to keep going and just switch over and do birch syrup. In terms of production, it's very similar to making maple syrup. You remove the water by evaporation. You typically use a evaporator in a sap house. There's a few differences that people need to be aware of, or else the final product won't really taste great at all. First of all, when you harvest and transport and store sap, it has to be in either a plastic or a stainless steel vessel of some sort. I've noticed that with aluminum equipment and with galvanized equipment, it'll dissolve some of the metal, and the resulting syrup will be pretty metallic and not really that desirable. This is sap from all our birch trees that I harvested earlier today. Mostly paper birch trees, but there's a few other species of birch in there. The sugars in birch sap are very different than in maple sap. When you're in a maple sap house, those guys are just stoking the fire up as much as possible with pine and whatever and boiling. When you're making birch syrup, we try to maintain a steady, even fire. We're usually keeping it at the boiling point of water. So this is what it looks like right now. It's still pretty thin. It's still pretty light, but getting sweeter.
As you get closer to finishing, it gets more and more difficult. You need to be that much more patient. You can't rush the process.
My favorite thing about this whole process is the smell of the evaporating sap. It keeps me coming back every single year.
It is not the kind of syrup that you would slather on your pancakes like you would maple syrup. It's a very, very earthy, rich, robust flavor, and not too sweet.
I've heard a lot of people describe it as molassesy, and some of my favorite things to use birch syrup on are ice cream is probably my favorite, salmon or red meat, or it makes a nice salad dressing with vinaigrette and olive oil.
It's a very gourmet specialty, and it's something that very few people have ever tasted.
Who uses birch syrup? There have been a few stores in the past that have carried birch syrup. Caliph's in Barrington and the Concord Co-op. Farmers markets occasionally. There's a few restaurants, the Black Trumpet Bistro in Portsmouth. Birch syrup isn't too prevalent at grocery stores. Probably about 3 times the price of maple syrup because there's more work that goes into it. I think there are only in New England a couple other producers making birch syrup.
I think that could actually be another supermarket shelf item, but it's hard to make, and people have to be really dedicated and devoted to be able to do this. Not everyone has the persistence or patience to do it. It's taken us years to perfect it, and I think we finally have, and we finally made the right ratio of the different species of trees to really get it just right.
It's just so great for us to come together as a family, and then the support from our friends and community that can also buy the product, taste the product, help with a little bit of the tapping. We had some newcomers come out today, and it's just great to see the excitement and camaraderie around this amazing project.